Um, so I'm recorded this Lightroom demonstration and we're going to act as though you've just walked in from making beautiful pictures and you're ready to set up a Lightroom catalog. So I have here my card plugged into my computer with my pictures and my external hard drive here. And what I'm going to walk through is the best practices for importing pictures into for downloading images to your external hard drive, for importing them into Lightroom, and the right way to have a Lightroom catalog and picture files linked together. So we're gonna, like I said, start from the ground up. Here are my pictures that are on my card, all these pictures. So for the sake of this, um, video, I'm going to create this kind of dummy um, folder, and see how my external hard drive, I have folders and things named after just a good file organization. So now I'm going to select all my images, take them off my card. I'm going to select all of them, take them off my card, and put them onto my external hard drive. So I'm downloading them from my card. It is very important that you don't plug in your card and then open Photos, or it's very important that you don't plug in your card and then go straight to Lightroom. Because if you haven't downloaded your images and they just stay on your card, then Lightroom's saving edits to your card and it's just not going to work. Your edits aren't going to be there anymore. But yeah, so we're downloading a little over 6 gigabytes of pictures, of raw pictures. And it's going to take a second. But yeah, I'm downloading images from my card to my external hard drive. That's step number 1. And after they're downloaded and the files are located on my external hard drive, I'm going to start a new catalog. And this is for those who have never created a catalog before. If you already have a catalog, then you will import to the catalog that already exists for you. But I'm going to walk through a way to organize this for people who have never opened Lightroom and never started a catalog. And all right, so all my pictures are there. And now, to prevent any confusion, I'm going to eject my card. So now I know I'm just working with pictures that I've downloaded to my external hard drive. So there will be no confusion. I've already opened Lightroom before and have a Lightroom catalog. So what I'm going to do now is kind of pretend when I click on Adobe Lightroom, it's going to bring up by default the catalog I have already created. But I'm going to have to kind of sidestep this and walk through as if I've never opened one. It's going to look a little different for you, but I'm going to File and create a new catalog. You will, like I said before, maybe, you will not do this every time. You do not start a new catalog every time you download pictures. You add pictures that you've downloaded to an existing catalog. Very important right here. It is asking me where I want to put my new catalog. And so what I stress is that your pictures and your catalog are always on your external hard drive. So that no matter what computer you go to that has Lightroom, whether it's on campus or in Timbuktu, you have, as long as that computer has Lightroom, you can work on your pictures. If you walk into a classroom and you only have your pictures, then you don't have your catalog that has all your information. And if you only have your catalog, then you'll walk in and you won't have any pictures to edit. So a way to avoid this is to keep all of them together. And so I'm going to put my catalog in the same folder as my pictures on the same external hard drive, Kraus_art. And I'm just going to save this as dummy catalog. And this is asking where you want the backups to go. You can back up. I back up every 6 months or so, but maybe you want to back up every week. I'm just going to hit skip this time. All right. So notice down here, I have this folder that has my dummy catalog. And I have all this other information. These files, I'm not going to get into them really closely, but I am going to show you this LCAT file is your catalog. You have these other what are called sidecar files, but this .lrcat, that is your Lightroom catalog. And as we've discussed, catalogs are where Lightroom stores your edits and the way that you've organized your pictures and everything. It's everything but your photographs. It's a lot of useful information. So this is the actual file for the Lightroom catalog. If you ever want to avoid confusion in the future, don't open up Lightroom. Like don't go down here and open up Lightroom. Go to your external hard drive and just double click this LRCat file, and that specific catalog that you want to work on will come up. So if you ever go into Lightroom and double click and it opens up a different catalog that you don't want to work in, go and find your actual catalog file. So now we have here a completely empty and completely new Lightroom catalog. And the first thing that we want to do, now that we know our catalog and our pictures are on our external hard drive, we're going to import them. And importing, basically, like if Lightroom is one person and your photos are another person, you're introducing the two. You're having them shake hands. And that's what importing is. You're not downloading them because you've already downloaded them onto your file, but you're bringing them in, you're welcoming them in to Lightroom. And so we have down here, I'll go over this workspace a little bit more. Lightroom has a pretty great workspace. This is where your picture will be. And Lightroom is organized into different modules. Your library catalog, which is where you'll view all your pictures. Your develop module, which is where you will edit all your pictures. And then we'll talk about later the book module. But the library and develop module are the two that you want to know off the bat. And you can control how much of your picture you see by collapsing and expanding these workspaces. You can click on the arrow to keep them there, or you can click the arrows back so that you get a better overall picture of things, of your picture, and you can hover over them to bring them back and click to establish them. I'll just do that there. All right, so back to importing. I'm going to click on import. And now it's going on the left side, it wants to know where I'm importing from. And on the right side, it's showing me where I'm going to import them to, which is my catalog, the catalog I've opened now. First things first, I'm going to find my catalog, which is on Kraus_art. And I'm going to expand so I can find my dummy folder. And now it has all my pictures It's showing me all the pictures that I downloaded into that dummy folder, and so it's showing me um, uh, the pictures that it's going to be importing. And let's say, for instance, you don't want to import them all. You can have, by default, they're all checked. But then let's say you maybe just want 6 of them. You can uncheck them all and then go in and check the ones that you want. I want to import them all, to all 206 of them. And yeah, they're all my raw files. And it's showing me here that they're going inside my catalog. And let's say it's convoluted, but you could change here what catalog they go into. I want them to go into the catalog that I have open. So that's where they're going to go, because that catalog's open. Up here, it's probably worth talking about that you can import files and convert them to DNGs if you're into that kind of thing. I'm not going to go into it, but DNG stands for digital negative file. It's just a generic raw form that isn't proprietary to Canon or Nikon or anything. But what you're going to do is add these pictures to your catalog. You're not going to move them, you're not going to copy them, you're going to add them. So all my pictures are checked. They're coming from my external hard drive to my catalog, and I'm going to import. And like I was saying, you can see the progress up here. Like I was saying, I'm not downloading them again. They're already downloaded onto my external hard drive. What I'm doing is introducing the pictures to Lightroom. I'm having them shake hands and establish a connection. Yeah, so now we have pictures in our Lightroom catalog. Exciting stuff. And we are under the library catalog, and we can change which module we're working under just by clicking. Develop is for editing, and library is for organizing. And I'm going to collapse these panels so I can see my pictures more clearly. So now we're seeing our pictures. We can see them thumbnail style like this and adjust how big the thumbnails are. Or we can see them singularly by clicking over here. But I want to see them all together and thumb through them. And you can scroll and see what's going on. Now, one thing that Photoshop does that can be annoying or useful depending on your camera is it will sequence your pictures 1 to 206 by default on capture time. Now, my camera is a little bit older, and it always, whenever I turn it on and off, it displays a new capture time. So I don't like to organize pictures, or I don't like to view pictures by capture time. I like to view them by file name, because your camera names its files sequentially. So when I organize them by file name, when I sort them by file name, I actually have pictures in the order that they're supposed to be in sequentially. So it's much handier to me. We have single view up here that we can toggle between single view and thumbnail view, and this is what Lightroom calls its film strip down here. So you can thumb through all of that and look at your pictures. So this is, as I was saying, Lightroom, or the library module up here, is organizing your pictures, and it's a way that you can view them. You might have noticed that Lightroom, see this loading button right here, Lightroom, as I said, is importing images, it's not downloading them. Because it imports, it can show you thousands upon thousands of pictures at once. Because what Lightroom's doing is it's looking at the file. It's not downloading the file. It's showing you essentially a high-resolution preview of the picture. And so sometimes you'll have to give Lightroom a second to give you that high quality render. It might say loading, um, but now it's imported all of them and it's not having any issues. But you can view all your pictures um, in the library catalog. See, it's loading again. All right, so bring those panels back. I don't want to bring this one back so much. I'll bring this one back. So this is very useful in your library module. It shows you a histogram, and it shows you your metadata. It shows you your shutter speed, your aperture, the focal length, the lens that you were using, and your ISO, which is very cool. I won't get into it, but you can also enter keywords as a way to organize your file. And if your camera capture time is set correctly, then it will display all of that, so you can kind of have like an archive. But this is very useful as a photographer, and as a way to learn. You can diagnose a file if there's any trouble. So this is kind of like an introduction to the library catalog. You can also, under the library catalog, rate your pictures. So let's say you want to go through and see all the images that you've marked as 5-star or 3-star or 1-star. So you've looked at all of them and then you've picked out ones that you want to edit. You can go through and rate them by hitting the numerals on your keyboard, or you can right click and you can set a rating for them. You can organize them by color if you're more into that. So let's say that I've looked at all these pictures and I know which ones I want to edit. We can now view only the pictures, or preference the pictures that we've rated. So I've moved up to the top are my 5-star pictures. So that's pretty handy. You can also, down here, filter them out so that you only see the pictures that you've rated 5-star. And so I like to do it this way. I like to come down here. I like to keep the upper portion organized by file name, so all my pictures are sequential. And then I like to organize down here my pictures organized by rating. So let's say these are the 5 pictures I want to edit. I'll move over to the develop module. And what's cool about this film strip down here is it's only showing me the pictures that I rated. And that's just offers some clarity and some organization. So the develop module is where you will edit your photographs. And I'm going to collapse this panel to the left, have some more workspace, and I'm going to collapse this bottom one too, so I have some more workspace. So I can see here my histogram and all my metadata. 50mm lens I had on at f4.5, and I was shooting at 1/125th of a second. My ISO was 400. What I like to suggest to a class is that Lightroom is organized as a hierarchy. It has you, it presents you first with decisions that you should make first. So when you work your way down this develop module tab, I want you to decide first whether you're going to work in color or black and white. And then you're going to set your proper color, your white balance. And then you'll come down here and work with exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows. It's best when you don't know what you want to do with the picture to work your way down top to bottom in this. I'm going to keep it in color. I need to adjust my white balance Um, this looks a little too blue to me, so I'm going to see what auto does. Auto makes it a little bit better. Um, if you know that you definitely have a true black or a true white in the picture, I don't here because I'm out in nature. This eyedropper tool lets you click on something that's white, like maybe a t-shirt or a car, or something that's black, like maybe a tire on that car or a piece of someone's clothing, and it will automatically set a proper white balance for you. Sometimes, though, in pictures like this, you have to go by eye. So I set my white balance to auto, and now I'm going to make it a little bit cooler by moving that slider. And I'm not going to mess with the tint, the magenta and the green. So I've got that figured out. Now I'm going to continue working my way down. This picture is too bright. In fact, when I look at my histogram up here, there is no true black at the left side of that histogram. So I'm going to take this exposure slider and bring it down. Oh, so much better. That's what I saw when I was photographing. Nice. So I have a nice full range of tones now. I have some black pixels, I have some white pixels, and I have all these midtones in the middle, which is great. I could maybe even go a little bit darker with this. Yeah, there we go. And then contrast, I do want to increase contrast a little bit. This is a good time to say, if you're shooting raw pictures, your file is inherently flat and desaturated, so that, with the idea that you have more control over those later. If you make an image and the file is inherently flat, it gives you that information and freedom to control contrast and saturation later. So yeah, I've got contrast where I want, I've got exposure where I want. I could bring highlights down a little bit, but I'm not too worried about that right now. I have a good amount of highlights. Shadows, you can control how bright those shadows are, how dark they are. This kind of is a mysterious picture, so let's make those shadows a little darker. And then whites and blacks are the extremes of those. And so if I increase how bright the whites are, you can see I get a big increase in all my highlights. I like it the way they are. And then same thing for blacks. It's the blackest points in your picture. So it makes your black pixels even blacker and the ones around them even darker. Use these ones with caution and use these ones more frequently. The tendency here in Lightroom is to drag sliders far to the left or far to the right. Don't bury a needle because it makes your edits look far too intentional and it spoils them. Drag it to the left or to the right to see how it works. But if you're burying these needles to the left or to the right, your photograph is going to look overworked. Clarity it doesn't make your photographs in focus. What it does is it creates an illusion that things are sharper. So this works well with photographs that are already in focus and you want to make them maybe look grittier or grainier. Dehaze is for atmosphere. So if you're making landscape photographs and it was a little bit hazy that day, what dehaze does is it increases contrast to get rid of that gray haze. Vibrance and saturation. Notice these are the furthest ones down. I think because these are the ones most frequently abused. Vibrance increases saturation in colors that are the most desaturated in the picture. So here you can see the greens are pretty saturated. The browns, not so much. And so if I increase vibrance, it will leave these deep saturations alone in the greens and only saturate the less saturated colors like the browns. So I'll show you that as an example. So those browns just got much more rich. Saturation is more like a hammer. Saturation increases every color saturation in the picture all at once. So if I drag that up, the whole picture gets saturated. The greens look terrible, the yellows look terrible, even if the water looks good now. So saturation is not a bad thing. You need to have saturation in a picture, but be cautious with it. And if you already have colors that are saturated enough in your picture and you just want to help other ones out, use the vibrance and not the saturation. So these are the basic edits that you've made. And Photoshop has, under this develop module, a ton of other things you can do, but start out with the basics. And then there's tonal curves, which aren't worth explaining yet. There's a color tab. I don't want to explain that yet. That's master these basics first. What you might find helpful are lens correction tools, but still, we'll take that on later. So I'll bring back up my typical dialog boxes. That is editing in the develop module. So now let's say I'm ready to roll. I have this picture that I'm ready to post to Instagram or my website or send to a friend or ready to print. I would call this image done now. And so I'm going to go back to library, and I have all my pictures back again. This is the picture I was working on. So I'm going to isolate it, single view. And like I said, I'm ready to share this picture out with the world. And so I'm going to export. And it brings up this whole new dialog box. As we've discussed, what exporting does is it takes the raw file that you imported, and it finds that file, and then it finds all the edits that you made to the file, and it brings them together, mashes them together, and exports them as a picture. So exporting is where your raw file and your edits actually meet to become a whole new file. And just like everything else, we'll work our way from the top down. I want to export to my desktop, and I always recommend you do that so you know where the file goes. If you don't know where it probably went into some weird picture folder that you've never even opened on your computer. So export to your desktop. File naming, I'm not going to mess with that. I'm just going to have it rename it. Keep its numeric value, just change the file type. So done with export, not going to file name. It's not a video. File settings. So if you want to bring this file into Photoshop afterwards, or you want to do a very high quality print, you would keep this as a TIFF, because a TIFF file, as in my lectures we've talked about, has the ability to store more information. If you're going to post this to your website or to Instagram, then you would export this as a JPEG, because it's going to decrease the file size and allow for easier viewing on your website, speedier viewing, and it'll take up less space on your phone or whatever you post to Instagram from. Color space, you're usually going to have this set to standard RGB. If you're going to go on a screen with it, online or on social media, always keep that quality at 100. And then image sizing, you can adjust here. This is particularly helpful if you're going to maybe get prints made. You can tell Lightroom how to adjust your file for you based on dimensions. And resolution for screens, you usually want to do 72 or 150. For Retina displays, 150. So that's set. That's set. Output sharpening, I don't want that. You can remove meta. This is a different conversation. No watermarking, no metadata, no post-processing. So I'm just ready to export. So now you can see this progress bar, and what Lightroom's doing is it's fetching my file and it's fetching my edits and spitting them out as a new file, which we have now on my desktop. And it's ready to go wherever I want it to. I just exported one picture, but what you will probably do most often is export multiple pictures. And to do that, you would just select more than one and then go through the same export pattern. But yeah, that is basically an introduction from downloading to exporting in Lightroom, and I hope this helps.